Attention car enthusiasts! Are you in the market for a new ride? Well, hold on to your seats because today we're taking a closer look at the 2023 Mazda CX30. Now, you may have heard all the buzz about this hot new SUV, but before you rush out to buy one, there are a few things you need to know. In this video, we're going to give you not one, not two, but 10 reasons why you should avoid the 2023 Mazda CX30. So buckle up and get ready for a wild ride as we dive into the top reasons why this car might not be the right choice for you. Number 1. The electronic nannies can't be turned off. We all know that safety is important when it comes to cars, and Mazda's iActive system certainly prioritizes safety, which is great. But sometimes we want a little more control over our driving experience, right? Unfortunately, one of the downsides of this system is that you can't turn off the electronic nannies, including traction control. Now, while this feature may be helpful in some situations, like getting unstuck in the snow, it can also be a bit frustrating for those of us who like to have more control over our driving experience. So if you're someone who values a hands-on approach to driving, you might want to think twice about the 2023 Mazda CX-30. Number 2. The CX-30 is not your best bet for driving in the winter. While the 2023 Mazda CX-30 may handle winter conditions fairly well, there are a few concerns you should be aware of. First off, snow can easily build up in front of the headlights due to the chrome trim that extends beneath them. This means you'll have to clear that area more frequently to make sure other drivers can see you coming. And speaking of visibility, the rear window isn't particularly large, which could make it difficult to see in certain situations. But that's not all. The whole liftgate can get dirty pretty quickly, so you'll have to use more washer fluid than usual. And if the windshield washer fluid indicator lights up on the dashboard, you'll need to fill up the tank ASAP. But perhaps the most concerning issue in the winter is de-icing the windows. When temperatures dip below -20 degrees, the windshield wipers can freeze up, and ice can build up in the lower corners of the glass. In such situations, you might have to turn your CX-30 into a sauna, as you'll need to crank up the cabin's temperature and ventilation to deal with it. Number 3. Poor infotainment UX. We all know that a good infotainment system is key to an enjoyable driving experience, right? Unfortunately, the 2023 Mazda CX-30 falls a bit short in this department. While it is a generally good car, the infotainment system can be a real headache. The problem lies in Mazda's choice to have a center-stack infotainment screen that's non-touch and can only be controlled via a knob and buttons. This can be quite frustrating, especially for those of us who are used to touchscreen interfaces. And things only get more awkward when you're trying to use Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, which were designed to be used with a touchscreen interface. While the screen is wide enough, it would have been better if it were taller and squarer, as the current letterbox shape is less useful for looking at sat-nav maps that require bigger screens. Number 4. Poor rear-view visibility. Visibility is actually not the forte of the CX-30, and the design makes sure of this. From the driver's seat, visibility can be quite limited, particularly in the rear. Sure, the backup camera does provide some assistance, but it's not a miracle worker. The small rear windows and relatively small rear screen can make it difficult to see what's behind you, limiting your view rearwards and over your shoulder. Number 5. Cramped interior. While the CX-30 may have decent space up front, the back seat is another story. Adult passengers, especially those on the taller side, will find themselves feeling pretty cramped with little leg or headroom to speak of. This can make long journeys quite uncomfortable, and don't even think about installing a larger car seat because that will be a struggle. The CX-30 also has a fairly small trunk compared to its competitors, meaning that families who need to carry large baby seats and a bunch of stuff will find themselves in a bit of a pickle. Only 6 carry-on suitcases can be squeezed into the rear cargo area, which isn't ideal if you're planning a weekend trip or a family vacation. Getting in and out of the back seat of the CX-30 isn't ideal either. With its small rear doors and narrow gap, it's tricky for passengers to enter and exit. Rear passengers will also have to contend with a floor hump and a lack of elbow room, which can be uncomfortable on long journeys. Number 6. The Mazda CX-30 is fast, only on paper. If you're in the market for a fast and powerful SUV, the 2023 Mazda CX-30 might not be your best bet. While it may seem fast on paper with its 191 horsepower and 186 pound-feet of torque, it falls short in real-world performance. In fact, it takes a sluggish 8.1 seconds to reach 60 miles per hour. Sure, it's faster than some non-turbocharged SUVs, but still, it's significantly slower than many of its turbocharged competitors, such as the Hyundai Kona. And even with the mild hybrid assistance, the engine still needs to be revved hard to get decent acceleration, which may not be acceptable for many drivers. Another downside to the CX30's engine is its automatic transmission. It shifts comically slow, making for an unsatisfying driving experience. You'll have to work hard to get the CX30 up to speed, especially when driving on the freeway. Number 7. Increased oil consumption. If you're considering purchasing a 2023 Mazda CX30, there's an important issue you need to know about before making your decision. Some drivers have reported that the turbocharged engine in the 2023 CX30 burns through oil rather quickly, which can lead to all sorts of problems down the road. And while Mazda has acknowledged the issue and issued a technical service bulletin, it hasn't yet led to a full-blown recall. That being said, it is important to note that oil consumption is not something that should be taken lightly. If left unchecked, it can cause serious engine damage and even result in a breakdown. So if you're in the market for a new crossover SUV, it's probably best to steer clear of the 2023 Mazda CX30 until this issue is resolved. Number 8. Unattractive body cladding. The excessive use of plastic cladding on the exterior of the car not only makes it look cheap, but also results in an unappealing appearance over time. The matte plastic might not stand up well to wear and tear, and as it fades, it can make the car look even worse. While the cladding may be useful for protecting the car from small dings and scratches during everyday use, it makes the CX30 unattractive for any outdoor activity, such as camping or off-roading. Number 9. The CX30 doesn't handle rough roads very well, and it's even worse if you opt for the all-wheel drive version or larger wheels. You'll feel every pothole, bump, and dip in the road, which can be quite unpleasant for both the driver and passengers. The firm suspension of the CX30 jitters more over potholes than other comparable SUVs, and it can be a bit jarring. Even on mostly smooth surfaces, the ride can feel somewhat thumpy. So if you're planning on driving in areas with rough roads, or you're looking for a comfortable ride for long drives, the CX30 might not be the best option for you. Number 10. The CX30 is unstable at high speeds. Now, here's something you might also want to keep in mind: the car's stability at high speeds. While the CX30 is stable in crosswinds and has good steering feel, it can become somewhat unstable when driving at higher speeds, especially when compared to other cars in its class. The firm ride that you might notice while driving at lower speed becomes more of an issue as you pick up speed, and you'll feel more ridges and ripples on the road than you might expect. This can make for a less comfortable ride and could be a deal breaker for some drivers who prioritize stability on the road. Of course, it's always important to consider your own driving needs and preferences when selecting a car. But if you're someone who frequently travels at high speeds, or if you just value a smooth and stable ride, it's worth keeping this in mind when considering the Mazda CX30. And there you have it, folks, 10 reasons why you might want to think twice before investing in the 2023 Mazda CX30. From the underwhelming engine and slow acceleration to the excessive plastic cladding and the unstable ride, there are a few too many drawbacks to ignore. We're not saying that this car is completely without merit, but it is important to consider all factors before making a big purchase like a car. Click the video on your screen now to learn about some of the positive reasons why you should consider buying a 2023 Mazda CX30.